And the ability that it creates for us to connect to one another, the ability it creates for us to learn hope from other people's resilience, or maybe just think about something in a new way. But nothing is quite as powerful as hearing one. And we have an absolute treasure in a gem here in our congregation named Reverend Ronna Case. And so I'm so excited to have our lay leader, Cam Day, who's going to learn that being a lay leader is not that fun over the next 3 days at annual conference. Anyone in this room that's been to annual conference before? I mean, Betsy, you've probably been to an annual conference before in your time, right? And so I'd like to invite Ronna and Cam up for a guest storyteller portion. Here's one for you. There's one right there that you won't have to hold. Perfect.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, yes, your eyes do not deceive you. It is Sally Jesse Raphael. This is actually like a lifetime dream of mine. I used to watch her all the time.
It explains so much.
Right, exactly, yeah. Like moth to a flame. But, yes, good morning, everyone. I'm so excited today to be able to sit down with Ronna, one of our sisters here at Holy Covenant.
Me too.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited that you are. To talk a little bit about her faith journey and kind of her experiences. And so I guess to start, Ronna, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you come from, kind of what led you here?
Small town, California. I'm almost 78, so quite a while ago. Had 4,000 people in it. It was really small. Daughter of the grammar school principal, so my father was never absent from my life because he went to the high school when I was moving from grade school to high school, so I never had a day when I didn't have my dad in my life, so it's really kind of a different story than a lot of people. Then I went to Berkeley, then I came to Chicago, then I went to Mexico, then I came back to Chicago.
So you've been here, just scattered to the wind. You've been all over, yeah.
California, Chicago, and Mexico.
Okay. Well, in all those journeys, Ronna, can you kind of tell us a little bit about maybe a memorable moment in those journeys? I know Seth always jokes about your years at Berkeley, which I also
I'm not going to talk
selfishly would love to talk about. But through the lens of your spiritual growth, are there any memorable moments in that very varied journey that you'd like to share with us about what shaped you?
I didn't want to just do one, so I've done 3 little ones.
Okay, perfect. You're making my job so easy. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to open my water.
My mother and my grandmother both went to the University of Chicago at Berkeley. So I was very rooted when I was standing in Sproul Plaza in front of the administration building after we'd marched against the war in Vietnam for a week, and we decided we would take over the campus. And we shut down numbers of exits and entrances, and especially the administration. We had loudspeakers and rally on their steps, and then we moved down to Lower Sproul Plaza, which is the student union, and suddenly the National Guard had surrounded us. I mean, there was only a small group of the thousands could get into Sproul Plaza, but those of us that were in it were suddenly surrounded by National Guard, and overhead we heard then Governor Reagan had sent a sweet helicopter to dump mustard gas on us, and we were surrounded and burning, eyes, skin. We weren't corralled then. We were able to go. They moved apart so we could get out, but they wanted to punish us, and that's what they did. We scurried to find bandanas with water that had been mixed with baking soda to kind of relieve that. And one of the things I learned from that is that there's a price to pay. There's a price to pay for justice. All of us have to decide what we're willing to pay for justice.
And I think about that, Ronna, too, like you speaking, because, this is, you think about like the Kent State massacre, right? The same thing happened, but they opened fire on those innocent
Well, I was going to
civilians.
say, we didn't have any deaths. We had a student get blinded by gunfire, but not deaths until Kent State in Ohio.
Ohio, that's right.
Ohio. And then Jackson State in Mississippi. There was also a lot of violence. The other thing that came out of that is to be part of a movement, to just be in the streets with thousands of people and to see the stretching out and to know that we're affecting change. I mean, we actually did bring so much consciousness to the war that eventually the powers that be. So to be part of a movement that actually was big, I mean, from my little tiny town, to be part of that was amazing. 17 years later, I went to Mexico for 3.5 years as a Methodist missionary with my husband, Ted, and we didn't know much Spanish. We were taking an intensive course with Berlitz, but the first month I was there, we went to a worship service at one of the most elegant churches, and I didn't understand a single word of the two-hour service, not a single word. And I was thinking, God, what kind of an experiment are you making here with us, Until they raised up the bread and the cup. And then I didn't need any words, did I? I knew what was going on, and that life, that familiar ritual wrapped Jesus around me, just wrapped Jesus all around me, and that made a difference, and I could just let go. Just go ahead, just do whatever's going to happen. And our students helped us learn Spanish. We were teaching in a Methodist seminary. The third one is just a moment when I first heard the phrase, may our lives be filled with justice, generosity, and joy. My husband coined that phrase, and the first time I heard him pray it, it was an epiphany moment for me, and that has been the grounding of our life together for 46 years. So justice, generosity, and joy.
Okay, and I know kind of jumping ahead, but we'll get back. But when you talk about justice, generosity, and joy, like those experiences, were they significant in helping you, live out that justice in your faith? Like, obviously you talked about being at Berkeley and being out and protesting, and then obviously your mission work in Mexico. So is that the realization of that justice work through the lens of your faith very important to you, and kind of have you pondered that a lot as you live this life?
Yeah, in various contexts. And I also mentioned South Africa. We went to South Africa before the apartheid fell, and there were moments when I did audacious things. My husband Ted couldn't believe I was standing up, taking pictures of the police, but it just, I guess I've read James, the book of James, and you just, without works, your faith is dead. And so that's always been a big thing for me. You don't just sit there.
So do you want to talk a little bit, so here, that once you got here to Holy Covenant, the connections that you've built and the support within our own church and within the broader
I had so
Methodist
much
church.
fun with this one. I came in 1991, came back. Ted had taught at the Chicago Theological Seminary in the 70s when we met and married. Then we went away to do missionary, and I was a pastor in California for a while. And then we came back. They wanted him as a senior professor of theology and Bible. So we came back. And I came to this church almost immediately Marty Scott, some of you know her, suggested that I might like this church, and I did, and I just never went anywhere else.
So it was one and done. You walked in
One
here
and
just
done,
knew.
that's right.
That's incredible.
So how do I connect? How do I feel supported? By participation. I realized that I had stories I wanted to tell, reminders I wanted to tell you about the things that happened, the things I participated in, and the way it makes a connection when you're working together on something. Women of the Word was a program of Saturday night community worship services. We had about 60 women. A lot of them were pastors on Sunday, so they came on Saturday night and did alternate thinking. We were part of a reimagining movement, reimagining the life of the Christian and the kinds of ways we talked about the Son and the Spirit and God. So part of that, we did different kinds of worship services. And that went on for 5 years, Saturday night worship. We called it our monthly, you know. Then the church women decided they would do vagina monologues here in the sanctuary with the pastor present. And we did that. It calls for like 15 women sitting up and taking different parts and different voice. And we did that twice. We did that 2 different years and raised $2,000 each time for rape advocates. And some of the men made cookies and served refreshments.
That's incredible.
It was really, really a fun participation. We also, 7 of us also for 2 years wrote a history book together and looked at pictures and pictures and pictures and more pictures and talked to people, interviewed people. So I was able to get into a number of really tremendous projects that lifted my spirits, formed my sense of being here at this place, and moved the whole radical thing forward. Giving regular financial support is another way that has been a major thing for how I support and participate. Potlucks, the regular alternative Christmases, the things that what happens when people come into the church, they want to do this or that. And so we just get along and get involved. And so that's always been that way. It kind of emerges. I wouldn't have done any of those things if somebody hadn't wanted to do them, right? So that's what I'm going to stick with.
All right, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So I know we touched on it a little bit, and obviously you spoke a little bit to this in your introduction of kind of your faith history, but what role do you believe that faith plays in addressing social issues, obviously back then, but also now as well, and fostering positive change in our community and our world?
Right.
I think you were in the belly of the beast protesting against empire during Vietnam.
We were all in the belly of the beast. Well, some of you weren't, but not yet anyway. I want to tell you about one particular project or event that kind of gives that, and it's from the same period. It's from the Berkeley period. So I'd left this small town. 5 months earlier, my father had died, this never absent father, so I was in grief, pretty much suppressed grief and acting out. I lived in a boarding house at the top of University Avenue, which is up a hill, so I was getting lots of good exercise. The first year, I was next door to all the frats, the fraternities, and a lot of negative vibes, which I basically ran from. I wasn't interested in going to their parties overnight. No, thank you. I found Wesley Center at the bottom of University Avenue and spent the next 5 years participating and leading or supporting campus ministry. It's a meaningful alternate to the frat lane, We thought about things, how am I going to live my life? what things in my daily life are really important to me. We had discussion groups. We read papers written by theologians. What is life for? What helps me get through the heartaches and fears? And Scripture, more and more, became a place to land, a place to look, a place to set myself, to root myself.
And certainly deeper conversations than probably that were happening at the frat house. I would
Yeah. And in those days, Bible study came to campus ministries in the form of ecumenical institute programs and outlines. And so in a way that was designed to move us from contemplation of our lives in the Scripture to, okay, well, so what? The whole idea is that Christians aren't just saved, we're saved for something. So after we'd marched for about a week in the streets and we'd done the campus takeover and we'd been gassed, in my psychology class, a number of us asked for time away from this. The feeling was we shouldn't do business as usual. So we just were lobbying, just being rebellious, basically. We just didn't attend classes, and we asked our professors to do something different, and this was the different. We charted out on big pieces of butcher paper together, this class, what we wanted to say to people about what we'd been doing in the streets, because we'd been getting, obviously, a lot of bad publicity, and we were going to take this little program, these little talks, to our hometowns, or to any church or business that would listen to us. So that's what we did for 2 weeks. We traveled. I went home to my church and did another couple of churches in that area. And we talked why we didn't think the war was a good idea. And out of our commitment, my commitment to make something happen, beyond just making a cry in the street, to actually engage with people, which is the next level, right?
And engage with them spiritually in the spiritual home, right?
Right.
Be thinking about it through the lens of our faith.
So,
and you were young. You were a young woman doing this. Incredible.
So we left the university to talk to folks about making love instead of making war. You may remember that phrase from the 60s.
It's incredible. So obviously you've experienced a lot of significant transformation spiritually in your life, but do you want to talk about maybe a time more recently in your faith journey where you've experienced transformation and how that keeps you rooted?
Well, the biggest transformation process that's been recent has been living without my husband. Mm-hmm. He died in Mexico of a stroke right in front of my eyes in March 2020. And we had a month of seeing him through to hospice and transporting him from Acapulco to Mexico City in an ambulance. And then I had another month after the memorial service there with a lot of our students able to be around me and support me. This was years after, right? Years after the 1980s when I was in Mexico. This was now 2020, right? So they showed up and helped me. And, talk about a spiritual support and witness,
And seeds planted a long time ago that were bearing fruit for you.
Yeah, bearing fruit. I can't imagine what that experience would have been like to be alone with a dead husband. So I couldn't get back for another month, so I stayed a month because of the airlines. There was no flights from Mexico
COVID.
City.
Yeah, this is COVID, right?
It was
COVID.
March 2020. So
Y'all remember March 2020? Yeah.
and then
Traumatic time, for sure.
finally I carried his ashes home in my backpack.
Wow.
In an urn that we found. And it's just been figuring out how to live every day without him. And it's been 6 years now. And I still wake up and maybe have a dream about him, or maybe remember what it was like to have him go through the checkbook instead of me going through it. You know, he loved the checkbook. He loved it.
Meanwhile,
but
millennials in here are like, a checkbook? What's that? Oh, go ahead.
I have to do all the days without him. And that's just an amazing prospect after 46 years. His wit, his wisdom, his ability to say stuff that would reach people. He had a real gift of language and theology. His prayers, his unconditional support and touch, all these things, you know, you live somehow without him. How am I doing? Well, better than surviving, but not maybe thriving yet. I'm not sure I will ever, well, I'll claim it, but I can't really see it at this point, you know, like really excited and involved. I mean, I am involved, but still.
You certainly are.
2 years I volunteered at a food pantry, which was something that I wouldn't have done probably if he'd still been alive. It was down the street in an Episcopal church, and I just had time to do that. I do activities that I enjoyed from before, and I do some new activities. I'm experiencing new things, and I have to ask, what does life mean now for me? My travel companion is gone, making decisions about money on my own, stuck on projects to get rid of stuff. So I'm now the figurehead president of the building where I live. So that's a major commitment. I'm not thriving on that, but I'm surviving
But
that.
You're serving.
And so the challenge is to understand that, one of the other things is almost all the institutions that I have been a part of are closing or have closed, or churches in California that I served sold. Seminary, now not taking any new students, and they're going to dig up Ted's ashes and give them back to me. He has a stone there at the seminary, and the university's buying back the building. They don't want stones and ashes. So grief is just a part of life. And as soon as kids can understand that, I think it's good, because there are going to be losses. Everybody's going to have losses, even if it's a pet. And that may be one reason to have a pet, you know, that you involve yourself, you love, and it's not forever. The challenge is to accept that God is a providing source, and the source has been there all the time of my whole life, from my small town to today, and to trust that providing divine source will be there is how I deal with the grief now. Things to do. I'm jumping ahead for another question. What to do?
Yes.
If I was talking to a young Christian, read poetry, sit in silence every day, write blessings out. Write blessings.
That's a good one.
Rest, exercise your spiritual muscles as well as your flesh and blood ones. Organize something with other people. Do rituals, learn to breathe well, come together.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, Ronna, before we...
I do have a blessing.
We would love to hear it.
It's a little strange.
I love that. Please start.
Good start.
And it's from a man you may have heard of, a spiritual shaman, John O'Donoghue from Ireland. And this one is called For Citizenship. In these times when anger is turned into anxiety, and someone has stolen the horizons and the mountains, our small emperors on parade never expect our indifference to disturb their nakedness. They keep their heads down and their eyes gleam with reflection from aluminum economic ground. The media wraps everything in a cellophane of sound, and the ghost surface of the virtual overlays the breathing earth. The industry of distraction makes us forget that we live in a universe. We have become converts to the religion of stress and the deity of progress. But that we may have courage to turn aside from it all. To turn aside from it all and to come to kneel down before the poor, to discover what we must do, how to turn anxiety back into anger, how to find our way home.
Amen. Thank you, Ronna. Thank you, Sister Ronna. Thank you very much.
Thank you.